Welcome back to part 2 of Betting People with Kitty Trice. Now, Kitty is a journalist at the Racing Post, but she's had quite the big job change recently. Kitty, tell us about your previous and new role.
So I'm currently still on the racing desk, racing editorial, and next week I'll be moving to Bloodstock. So it's still a journalist role, but essentially it'll be all the news in the breeding industry, all the latest sales reports, stallion movements, mating plans, that sort of thing. And yeah, it's a new, and it's obviously going to be quite a challenging time given coronavirus, but I'm incredibly excited to get started.
And for those of the viewers who might not necessarily think that much about Bloodstock, or who might not go to Bloodstock when they visit the Racing Post, there's plenty of people who watch Betting People will go either for greyhounds or for racing or for industry news. Explain to us the importance really of the team there and that effort going forward.
Well, we sort of try and bring the breeding industry to our pages. It's a very important role because obviously without the breeding of these horses there'd be no racing. Without the people choosing, the owners, the stud farms choosing these matings, the owner breeders, like Darley, Khalid Abdullah, those sorts of people, obviously we wouldn't have an industry. And it's important to get everyone ranging from them to the smaller owners and stud farms to let the wider audience know of their plans. And I think if people have a chance to sort of look at pedigrees and look at what we do, we try and just bring it forward to people who don't necessarily know as much but are keen to learn more. It's a fascinating sort of area of racing.
And obviously with that in mind, if somebody was looking to learn a bit more about breeding in general, where would you encourage them to start? Are there any good books, any good resources for somebody who would want to maybe incorporate breeding into their betting, particularly with, say, 2-year-old races, for example?
Yeah, so the Racing Post, we've got a betting guide and there's a pedigree section in there. But for sort of non-betting purposes, there's an excellent book called A Beginner's Guide to Pedigrees. I might have got that wrong, but it's on Amazon. It's a great read. There's also lots of different books on Weatherby's, like the Stallion Guide, which is all the registered stallions in Weatherby's, and that's a really good read as well, with pictures. And then there's a list of their offspring, that's who they're sired by, their dam, and it goes back, to their grandsires, dams, etc. So that's a really useful companion tool as well.
And obviously with the bloodstock industry, like all others, facing a bit of a crunch due to the extraordinary year we've had, are there any issues that you'll be particularly keen to cover and bring to your readers when you start next week?
Well, I just think we need to be aware that obviously it's going to be a very tricky time. Like the low, the lower tiers of the market will find it difficult. I'm sure, Tassel's Book One catalogue was released. I mean, I'm sure there'll be little to no problems there because, there's always supply and demand for these beautifully bred animals. But we just need to cover the fact that a lot of, breeders, stud farms, this is a difficult time for them, and we need to just keep on letting people know. I mean, it's going to be difficult for everyone, but that's an important issue. Obviously, it's kind of related, but like the prize money issue is not going away, and that affects sort of breeding as well, affects racing, and that, there's so many sort of components that need addressing.
Another issue many racing fans, and actually quite a few punters too, have brought up in recent years to do with bloodstock is the needing to breed for speed, basically. Hugely successful sires who are either retired as juveniles or who were sprinters producing precocious horses. Do you think that we've gone possibly too far in that direction, and that we are at risk possibly of lacking diversity basically in the offering, in the horses that we're mainly producing?
In a short answer, yes. I mean, you can't really blame breeders, or you know, those buying them for wanting to breed these speedily bred horses, because you know, time is money. There's, you know, they're quicker to sort of get trained, be ready to race, whereas traditionally the middle distance horses, you know, they take longer to mature, you know, unsurprisingly, and therefore it's more a domain for the wealthy owner breeder. But I do think when we're sending horses like Crystal Ocean, you know, he didn't win at 2, but he was good second. I think he got an RPR of 80 that would be good enough to win a lot of maidens. When he was, you know, a consistent 3-year-old and 4-year-old, won a Group 1 at 5, you know, over 10, 12 furlongs, he was second, a close second in 2 King Georges. When we're sending horses like him off as national hunt sires, that's not at all a criticism of Coolmore or any of them. They're just recognising the market. But I just think we've gone slightly too far when we're bracketing 10 furlong horses as, you know, potential national hunt sires. The same for Poet's Word. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of demand for him, I believe, in his first season, and then he went to Boardsmill. But he's a beautiful looking animal, and he's you know, he's got top class form. He beat Cracksman in the Prince of Wales. But I think we have gone too far. But also I think, you know, speed is important. You know, we've got some fantastic speed sires. Sorry.
Nice.
Like, yeah, Dark Angel, who, yeah, he didn't race on at 3, I believe, and look what he's done. I mean, he's been fantastic. So I think we've got to recognise that there's a challenge, but I don't think we should sort of slate people for wanting to breed speed horses. I just think we've got to find a way of diversifying the middle distance / staying bracket.
So would there be any changes actually that you'd sort of make? Because in other racing jurisdictions, I'm thinking of Germany, there are certain, I believe, sort of barriers to becoming a stallion. You don't think that's something we should consider in the UK or Ireland, or?
I mean, it's a difficult one, because you look at a horse like Kodiak. He wasn't a black type winner. I mean, he was fourth in a Group 1 in France in his, you know, later years, but his pedigree stood out, and he was given a chance because of that. I think it's so difficult, because if they hadn't taken risk with him, then he wouldn't be this, you know, phenomenon that he is today. So I think it's really, really difficult to judge. But I personally like seeing horses race beyond 2 if possible, potential stallion prospects, because I don't think a 2-year-old career is the be all and end all. Personally, I like to see them prove themselves at 3, or, you know, at least 3. But I like to see them, you know, even 4 as well. I mean, some of the best horses, you just need to look at Frankel racing on at 4. Like, you know, I know obviously Enable's not a stallion, but like, look how long she's raced. I know she's a mare, but, you know, there is a chance for horses to show their, you know, soundness and longevity, and I think it should be used more. Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be something that quite a few of the punters watching this might agree with. If you have any thoughts, do comments, please, and don't forget to come back for part 3, where we'll be discussing the wider issues in racing as a whole.